It certainly makes it very, very difficult, as it puts an enormous amount of pressure into the cash flow and disposable income of our customers and clients. Certainly from a banking point of view, there is some benefit from the higher interest rates on the returns that we make on our own capital. That's called endowment. But we would think that that is, over time, likely to be offset by higher bad debts and slower growth, quite frankly, as a consequence of the tougher economic environment.
So Nedbank has been known to be a green bank for a while now. In light of the emergency energy interventions that were outlined earlier this year, has the bank been working on creating accessible and affordable products to enable households to get renewable energy technology in their homes?
Absolutely. That's something that's extremely important to us as the Green Bank and in fact, a leader in sustainability and green energy. I think many people will know us as being one of the market leaders in the renewable energy programs that have been rolled out, let's call it at a wholesale level. But at a more retail level, we've recently partnered with a company called Home Energy, and that's HOLM Energy. And together we are working to roll out products that enable affordable renewable energy and solar solutions, in particular for retail customers.
So, Mike, you've been quite vocal in the past about the things that have gone wrong in our economy and even broader society. And you're a member of business bodies that have come up with possible solutions. What's your observation around how the country is doing amidst the many challenges that we have?
Yeah, I think if we looked back over, perhaps when I was most vocal, probably, 4 years or so ago, South Africa, I think we would classify as a turnaround story, having gone through an extraordinarily difficult period up to 2017, 2018. And within that context of a turnaround story, I think we are making progress. But unfortunately, that progress is just too slow. And in particular, I think the absolute binding constraint of energy supply is causing extraordinary challenges to our economy, and therefore, as a result of that, our ability to create jobs and uplift people from poverty. So progress we are making, but unfortunately, I think if we look at it, we are just simply moving too slowly on a number of key issues.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about the possibility of South Africa being greylisted. How worried are you about that? And in practice, how might this affect the banking sector and in turn the South African consumer?
So no good can come from a greylisting to anybody. It will inevitably make the costs of anybody wanting to transact with anybody else in South Africa higher, as those external parties will have to conduct what's called extended due diligence, or a higher level of compliance on all of their South African counterparties. So, I think what would be important if we are greylisted, and I do think it is still possible that we could avoid it, but if we are greylisted, what would be important is how quickly we can move to get off that grey list. And some countries like Mauritius were able to get off the grey list within 12 months. So I think that would be important. And the second thing that would be important is to examine for what reasons are we grey listed. And if I look at the previous reports from FATF, who are the agency who grey list people, their main criticisms of South Africa were towards our prosecuting authorities and our ability to prosecute people who have been guilty of money laundering. Now, they inspected us in 2018, and clearly we had made very little progress then. Thankfully, in recent months, we've made more progress, and hopefully they recognize that. But there were, in fact, very few criticisms of the financial and banking system itself and the role that it has to play and the supervision of that system. So let's hope that if we are grey-listed, that the financial system is still seen as being, a shining light within the challenges that we face. And then the final criticism was around the overarching legislation of who should be responsible for reporting suspicious transactions, etc., and bringing more counterparties into that, And currently there is a bill traversing Parliament to address just that.
Mike, come Wednesday, of course, it's the midterm budget. What are the standout issues for you that you'd like the finance minister to speak to? We know, of course, there are many issues.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of them. I mean, first and foremost is to demonstrate ongoing discipline in control of the country's finances. You know, quite frankly, if we look back 10 or so years ago, we lost control of the country's finances. We ended up with an extraordinary ballooning in debt to GDP ratios with huge consequences on the cost of debt for every South African. And you just have to look what's played out in the UK as to how badly that can end. So we want ongoing financial discipline, which is a vital pillar for democracy, economic growth, and indeed our country. And then I think within that framework, what people will be looking most at is there any movement on Eskom's unsustainable debt burden off Eskom's balance sheet onto unfortunately taxpayers' balance sheets, but that's where it currently sits. And what does happen in respect of, you know, social grants, social development support, etc., and how do we finance that in a way that it is sustainably financing, and ultimately over time, how do we actually create economic growth and more jobs so that we don't have to spend so much money on social support?